We work in the highest level prison in the state of Alabama. We house all type, from 6 months all the way up to death row. We have them all here.
The violence here, I don't really know how to explain it other than this is a breeding ground.
Donaldson's a pretty dangerous place. The chance of somebody being stabbed or killed is pretty much a common occurrence, as it were.
There we were in Alabama, a very strong Christian part of the country, and one of the United States' worst prisons. And we were teaching the teachings of the Buddha.
No one is telling them what to look at or how to change. They're gaining their insights within themselves.
Life without parole doesn't mean that you're to be punished or worked or any of that. It means that you're to be warehoused till you die. This is my home, and I'm going to do what I can to help make it the best place it can be. I want a nice place to live, too.
The best way to describe a prison is to think of it as a small city. Your correctional officers are your police force. I'm the mayor. Just like you have people that are of great influence on the street, you have inmates in here of great influence with other inmates. You have organized crime inside of a prison that are controlling illicit activities from prostituting inmates to drugs to gambling. And that's a constant battle for us to keep under control.
What you got out here is 500 inmates. 4 dormitories this way with 110 per dorm, and B dorm with 116 down here. That's Tower 4. That's the sally port where any vehicles come in and out of the institution. All towers are armed. I have segregation, so I put them under investigation or detention and lock them up. That's basically the premise of it. 6 block front door. We have a lot coming and a lot going. Too many of them do come back. 9 times out of 10, they fall into their old habits when they get back to their hometown, and they run with the same folks that got them in here the first time. I can pretty much tell whether or not they're coming back.
The majority of my time I've been in prison, I've been in segregation. I always looked at the officers like, you know, that they're my enemies. I had this big image of them. You know, I felt like I had to have this image to survive in this environment. All I thought I wanted was just another chance to go back and go to school. Another chance at life. You know, I wouldn't have achieved anything. It would have been like back on the same path again.
My son, Elwood Curry Johnson, he was in his third year at Miles College, 3.0 grade average, playing baseball. The scouts was looking at him for pro. He had just made a decision to turn his life around. But sometimes your first impression always be your last impression. Even when you try to change, sometimes others do not understand.
June 2nd, 1991, if my behind been at home, then I wouldn't have to worry about being in prison. I take responsibility for my actions now. I did do that first. I was like, man, these folks throw me in prison like this, huh, for the rest of my life for nothing. Had to be for something else. You did something. Accept what you done and let's move on. Guys had come to one of the spots I had, and it was just like a big shootout.
One was dropped in the middle of the sidewalk. From my understanding, one fell near the building, and one across 3rd Avenue. I haven't been on this street but once since this happened. This will make my 2nd time on this street. And I try not to travel this street. I have no reason to.
What's up, y'all? Did y'all win? Y'all lost by 1? What about you, Head? Oh, y'all on the same team this year? Oh, you done moved up to the big dog house.
Oh, it hit me hard to find out Ed went through what he was going through. But he wasn't really the one going through anything. It was us. And I didn't realize it. I cry a little bit, but I don't cry much.
See how I got in your head? Go ahead.
Sometimes I just hate that he in there. And I wish he can just come home.
As a psychologist at Donaldson, I realized treatment was essential. I started looking around, and I came across a prison in India that was using a meditative technique known as vipassana. Vipassana is an intense program. The inmate has to go through it 24 hours a day, meditating for hours on end for a 10-day period of time. That particular program seemed to have a calming effect on that population. So I was thinking perhaps we could take that program and transplant it into Donaldson and run it as a regular program. When people say, gee, you're the first prison in America to actually do this program, it just sort of is incomprehensible.
I've heard vipassana, vipassana. My main supervisor was telling me, he said, Biggie, how you say that word? Is it vipassana? I said, no, it's vipassana.
The questions about what the program was were somewhat simple. Is what benefit was it going to have for us? How does anybody do it for 10 days without being able to talk? No telephones, no TV, nothing to read. And that just seemed like an incredible task to overcome. I need to sit the program so I'll have a better idea of what it's about, but I'll be honest with you, it's rather intimidating.
While I was here as a psychologist, we had a House of Healing program which highlighted doing meditation as part of our relaxation techniques. It turned out that the inmates are very receptive to meditative practices. Vipassana really takes it one step further, and that goes to the sensation level, to where it puts you literally in touch with your bodily sensations to realize these sensations are driving your behavior.
My name is Benjamin Bedegwa Iwamba Oriang. Everybody calls me OB. I'm the one who helps facilitate the House of Healing class and almost all the other mental health workshops here.
Generally speaking, these are things which we pick up. You know, these are things which change the culture.
I want to help people.
Each of these things,
you know, that's one thing I want to do, is to help people.
Different experiences with our families, with our peers, in school.
The work which is done through all these courses, all the classes and whatnot, including the Vipassana class, this is something that should be used for personal development, personal growth. You know, so irrespective of whether someone is free or whether someone is incarcerated, I think such work should be done if one wants to grow personally.
I've been locked up 16 years, 8.5 years on death row in that 5/8 cell. And every morning I'd have to get up and live with the fact that I have isolated myself from everybody that I loved, isolated everybody I loved from me, and pretty much wrecked their lives. I had small children. They had to grow up in this community where their father has done this horrific act. You know, they had to go to school with kids that your father is a murderer. I thought I had a real good life going, and I blew it. My mother took us out in the country to this old deserted farmhouse. She didn't know what to do. She didn't think she could raise us. She got us out of the car, set us on the front steps, and she told me, "I want you all to be good. I love you all. I'll be back in a little while." She hugged me, hugged Danny, got in the car and left. But I was so drunk, by the time that they had started stabbing the guy, I turned into a coward. I didn't try and stop them. I was scared. I was scared they were going to leave me there like they did him. And I didn't do anything. She left us out there to die. She didn't want to live herself, is what she told me later. I didn't hear from her again until I got to death row. And my case is not a killing. It's not just a murder. It's rated as capital murder, murder robbery, but that's not what it was either. My case was a slaughter. The man was stabbed 3 times in the face, 59 times in the back, and his throat was cut 16 times, almost decapitated. I'd just as soon have been killed like that man was and left there with him. Then the people that really matter to me wouldn't have been through what they've been through.
I've had a keen interest in bringing Vipassana to corrections for quite some time. But of course, India is a very different culture, and they're open to a lot more of these kind of practices, meditation. So it's a very foreign thing.
Being a Buddhist program from the past in a Christian setting is a little questionable for a lot of people. You're in the Bible Belt in South Alabama, or in Alabama, period. We have to be progressive and be willing to take chances, and the chances that we're taking are minimal. If it doesn't work, it was a program that we tried that didn't succeed. If it does work, then I receive all the accolades. I don't see a great danger here. The only failure is the person who didn't try.
One of the things that happens in this state is that you have two models of corrections. One is a treatment-oriented model where once you lock the inmate up, you start to provide services for him. The other model is more of a punitive model where you lock the inmate up and you forget about him. That's it.
State of Alabama, in my opinion, the prison system is something else. We're probably one of the worst states in the Union about treating our prisoners the way they should be.
It's more or less a thing of captivity rather than a thing of rehabilitation. They're saying that there's no money for this and no money for that. You know, it's always money for other things, but there's never enough money for the right thing.
But they shall have everlasting life. My friend, you got life when you got Jesus Christ. Life, my friend. Live, my friend, life.
Well, I don't believe in Buddhism and stuff like that. I'm a Christian. Or any kind of witchcraft at all. So I don't believe it would help.
They're give too much anyway. I mean, if they're gonna go rob stores and kill people, they don't deserve nothing. My opinion. I work every day. They should too.
I hope they do change. You know, for society's sake, I hope they change. But the 10 days of being isolated, meditating, they should have meditated before they done whatever they did to get in there.
I was very nervous to go to a maximum security prison. The atmosphere was so heavy and oppressive. I felt I was going into like the prison in Shawshank Redemption.
What happens if you bring these teachers in that have no background in corrections? How is that going to work, knowing that you've turned this part of the prison over to people just coming in off the street?
Home sweet home.
Well, when Vipassana first approached, they came up with a lot of issues such as wanting to live inside the prison with the inmates, which I found at first to be just absolutely nonsense, to tell you the truth.
We had to get ourselves established in our living quarters. There was an open toilet and a sink, so we actually had no privacy. We did actually hang up a curtain for as much privacy as we could get, and so to say the least, it was very rudimentary. That place became our haven. We found ourselves really quite fascinated with the fact that here we were in one of the United States' worst prisons, and these very lofty teachings of the Buddha were being taught in this institution. I mean, it was just mind-boggling that we were there.
Chris, what do you think? Souvenir?
I think we had good reason to be scared, but I had a lot of confidence in the authorities and the warden. I felt very sort of protected, maybe naively so, but I did.
The first thing I want to say is a little bit about what vipassana is. For the 10 days that you're going to be taking the course, you're going to be observing a strict moral code of conduct. We go through a much more involved orientation process for the inmates so that we acclimate them to the course and allow them to let their decision to take the course sink in such a way that if they feel that this is not the time for them to sit a course, they can comfortably decide not to before the course actually begins. And let me just say, if you're not nervous about the 10-day course, you should be. It's absolutely natural to have doubts about your own capacity to get through the 10-day course, doubts about the 10-day course itself, about the benefits, how hard it's going to be. For the first 9 days of the course, amongst themselves, there's complete silence. Then there are the 5 precepts, which is abstaining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and all intoxicants. And then there are the specific rules about the schedule for the day. Just to summarize, your primary job during the 10 days is going to be to follow the schedule of meditation, the rest periods, the meal times, and the breaks. It's a very regimented day. It's in many ways stricter than your normal prison daily schedule.
To be honest with you, when I first heard of the program, I was skeptical of it myself. I thought, well, we're, going to waste some time here. Some of the inmates are going to use this program as a way to get away from the block and to do their own thing.
What is that? I don't want to go through that. I was scared. I was real scared.
And so I started smiling. I said, it's good to meditate. And I say, meditation, sometimes it pays to shut everything down so you can just sit quiet and hear.
I've been through every course imaginable. I know it all. A meditation course? Come on.
I have a question. I'm a firm believer that the only protection I have for myself spiritually is prayer. But I understand through the program that we can't indulge in prayer. I was just wondering, why is that?
The reason we ask you to do that is because when we work at the deep level of the mind, we want to have no other practices that involve exercising the mind in this way.
Right from the very start, I was always concerned from the religious point of view that they would see this program as something foreign or alien, unusual, different, that would take away from their programs.
How many of you consider yourselves to be religious? Quite a few of you. Or spiritual, religious, however you want to say it.
It's not that it's teaching the religion, it's teaching a meditation practice that was born there. I don't think that will be a problem once that's understood. Now, if you came in and tried to teach against Christianity and to teach Buddhism, it would become a real problem here. As a matter of fact, I would have some difficulty with that.
I had a guy come to me this morning and tell me, said, I'm concerned because the guys that aren't really grounded real well in Christianity go down there and they're going to become Buddhist. They won't understand. And I said, well, what's not to understand about compassion, love, and caring? And that was the big turnaround for me, realizing that. That was the turnaround.
This west gym will be locked down. The inmates will not be able to go out, and inmates from the outside will not be able to come in. This is very much a monastic setting, in a sense, or a prison within a prison.
Obi, was very instrumental in setting up the courses.
Anyway, that'll do. If we put the duct tape, if we duct tape it all up, it should be fine.
We got matching tape now.
Wow.
That's great.
We've got some gray one too, which we could use for the edge of the white.
He told me that he had started meditating, and so I asked him, "You've started meditating? What's going on?" And I've always been apprehensive about these things. He explained to me that it is to relax you and enable you to focus on controlling your emotions. He went through a whole length of things, but I was just concerned about his well-being.
What I noticed about OB is that he seemed to be more calm, more at peace with himself. He seemed to have that sense of purpose. It's like stepping into the abyss, to go to Vipassana, because when you're in here, you're not just anybody, you're already someone that's harmed humanity. You've already done something, so you wonder, what is it I haven't dealt with? There may be things back there that I may uncover that I've never even glimpsed at. This woman came out from the back. I asked for her money. I told her to lay down on the floor, and that didn't seem to satisfy me. So I told her to get up. When she walked by me, I stabbed her to death many, many times. You really don't feel. You've got this place where it's like things are not real. And until you get stopped by life itself, where you have to stop and take note of what you've done, what's going on with you, then you just continue.
The reason I feel that Vipassana has the opportunity, one of the things its main principles is to make an individual look at themselves. When you get on the cushion and you're having to deal with yourself under strict rules and strict environment, it really kind of changes everything. You can't fake yourself.
And this is actually the last orientation that we'll have. And the idea is for you to come in here, get used to the environment that you're going to be in, have you sit on the cushions, get a sense of what that's going to feel like. Each time we start a group sitting, we'll start off with chanting. And the chanting is to help create and to preserve a good environment for you to work in. So I'm going to play you the beginning of the chanting, and then I'll play the end of it.
Being someone as talkative as much as I am, shutting up for 10 days is just critical mass. That's serious. That's almost to drive you into hysteria by itself. What's 10 hours going to look like? What's it going to do to your back? It don't matter how much yoga I've done or other things, I still know that my legs, the circulation cuts off. I imagine it's kind of like going in the Army. When you get through a boot camp, one way or the other that you feel about it. Either it was okay and you realized what the purpose is for, or you didn't, and you had the extreme other.
Come, O people of the world, let us walk the path of truth. The path of truth is the path of peace. The path of truth is the path of happiness. So you get a sense of what he's chanting. It's just good wishes. So I wish you all the success these 10 days. It won't always be easy, but remember, if you keep persisting, keep trying, you will be successful. So
I wrestled with myself for a long time. So I said, I'm decided to take this. I'm gonna see what's going on. That's part of me. Let me know, Ed, you ready, man. You ready. You know, you ready to go and deal with life. Some people scared to deal with life, and I was one of those persons scared to deal with life.
I gotta get it going on myself.
All vipassana inmates, you need to get your stuff, gentlemen. Get your stuff. All of them coming? All this stuff on there? All right.
I hear this sound I'm not used to, and it means it's time to get up. I would come to hate that sound.
Probably the most challenging discipline that we have is one of noble silence. So for 9 days, the students cannot actually talk with each other.
It was so quiet, you know. I hadn't been in anything that quiet since kindergarten. But it was okay. It's like they're used to action. They're used to action at all times. They're not used to clearing their minds and, you know, meditating and listening to other people, you know, tell them how to meditate, how to express themselves. They're not used to that.
First 3 days was the rough part. At this point in time, you don't have to sit hours and hours for the first day. I'm like, okay, I can do this, I can do this. And I'm telling myself I can do this. They're teaching us about anapana, about the breathing process. But at this time, I don't know nothing about no anapana, about no breathing process. So.
Anapana is strictly a concentration technique, so that when you get to Vipassana, you can work very deeply or you can observe the sensations in the body.
Anapana is this breathing through your nostrils. When you anapana, it opens up. It opens up this part. It helps you think. It helps you think about you.
This technique really is scientific. It's very pragmatic. And I think that they sense that at a very early stage. Vipassana means literally to see things as they are, to see the reality deep inside of yourself as it really is. And that oftentimes is not a very pleasant experience initially.
I wake up exhausted. I am concerned about making this day. The very hour that we are to ask the teacher to teach us Vipassana, a thunderstorm hits for the whole duration of the session.
I think I was going around too serious. I went in there and I said, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it. Nothing's going to get in the way, and then other times so many things got in the way, and you know, then I found myself getting angry at the things which were getting in the way, you know, and that was a big storm there.
Every student will face what we call a storm, where they will have a deep sense of fear, anger, depression begin to come to the surface level of the mind, and they have to face that. That is the technique of Vipassana, is to work at that depth where all that stuff comes up.
I knew that I had to kind of let things go. And I realized that I'd be holding on to things too strongly. And that became very funny. You know, I started laughing about the way I was reacting to everything. I started laughing because I was angry. And in the midst of the laughter, it changed to tears. I was like, whoa, man, the big image, you know, you're not supposed to cry. What if somebody sees you crying? It turned out that it was okay, actually. You know, in the end, everything seemed okay. It was okay to cry. And I just didn't care anymore. And I just let the tears roll, and I cried. I don't know what I was crying about, but it felt good to cry. You know, it had been quite some time.
I had a friend, his mother had a lot of land out in the countryside and the outskirts of Montgomery. We used to go out there and target practice and stuff like that. Then I used to ride around with the gun all the time, in the car with me, you know.
I remember when it first happened, I wept over it. It's very difficult to conceive of sitting in a car and driving down a highway and just suddenly being shot randomly.
One person got killed, one person got seriously injured, and, you know, they were the subject of a lot of publicity and whatnot around here in the state of Alabama.
To this day, Ben says that he wasn't the person who pulled the trigger. But I know that these were his friends, and if you're in company that does things like that, all of you are responsible for it.
I was a stupid kid. You know, 20 might not seem like a kid to many people, but that's 10 years ago for me. And when I look back, you know, I see that I was a kid. I wanted to fit in, you know. I wanted to fit in I wanted to be looked up to by people, and, you know, I wanted to be accepted in this society here. And, you know, many times that led me into a lot of trouble. I have changed drastically. I think without that personal work, I might have been somebody crazy like the person who was described in the newspapers and whatnot when I got arrested. A ruthless, mindless animal from Africa. Yeah.
We can't really expect the men to do anything. Our job is, just to give. The results really are up to the men.
It was horrible. It was probably the worst experience I've ever been through. I spent 8.5 years on death row, and this was harder. All the stuff that's buried down deep, they come up gradually. And most of them are small things, and you can deal with them, you recognize them, you look at it, and you move on. But I never felt any like that 5th day. It was hard to keep composure, stay on the mat. I wanted to jump and run bad. I've always justified some of my behavior during that crime, and on day 5, I just couldn't get away from myself. I had to actually see it. Things don't just happen, and your behavior causes the actions that you get into. So I am guilty. I'm guilty of the crime, whether I hit the man, whether I stabbed the man, whether I cut the man, which I didn't do any of those, but I'm just as guilty as the ones that did. It hit places in me that I didn't even know was there anymore. Places like your first child, when he gets old enough to talk and he looks you straight in the eye and he tells you, "I love you, Daddy." And you know for the first time he understands what he's saying and he means it. Those kind of places in you. And after 16 years of being locked up in here, I wasn't sure there were any places like that in me anymore.
The in-breath and the out-breath.
That's why they give a 10-day course instead of you come in and sit for 4 to 6 hours a day and go home. Because no, they want you there long enough that you actually deal with your stuff.
Letting the thoughts go on the awareness of the breath.
I believe the Grady Bankett is someone who is not going to be a threat to society his entire life, who doesn't have to be incarcerated or imprisoned his entire life to be appropriately punished for the crime he committed. I tend to disfavor these sentences that have hopelessness as a framework. But I guess we start with the premise that where there's life, there is hope. And if we can get to that point, there'll be something we can do about that that will expose more of this person's humanity in a way that the rest of society says, "Oh, you're right, that's a human being. We shouldn't just give up on them."
I thought my biggest fear was growing old and dying in prison. In truth, my biggest fear was growing old and not knowing myself.
So this is the technique of vipassana, is learning to observe the sensations in the body. You might be walking down the street and we meet someone and they say, "Well, how are you today, Harry?" And Harry says, "Oh, I'm feeling great. I feel wonderful." You walk a little further and you meet Sally, and Sally says, "Oh, I'm so depressed, I'm frustrated," and so on. Both of those people said they were feeling frustrated or happy. But how do they experience those emotions? They are literally feeling the sensations on the body. And the old habit pattern is to react to those sensations. But in vipassana, you learn just to observe those sensations, because that's what they really are, and not react to them.
That day that I was sitting and straight meditating. I don't want to look at nothing. I'm just straight meditating. Even at the time we had a break, I'm going to sit on my bed. I don't want to do nothing but meditate. I dreamed about my daughter the third night I was in Vipassana. And I still want to just block that out in my life. You know, I don't want to deal with this. If my daughter dead, this is my baby girl. You know, I was like, I'm gonna put this out. My baby in the case, so I'm gonna put this out, lock this away. I'm not gonna deal with this here.
Now start practicing vipassana.
When I told the teacher about it, he was like, "That's good, Edward. You're dealing with it."
Whatever sensations you experience on the way.
He was the head of a gang within the facility and was quite feared and respected in that way. He came to me and he had so much pain in his face. He says, "I don't know if I can do this. I'm a really angry man."
And it has a little apparatus on the playground, like a bridge. And a girlfriend of hers was playing on the bridge, and she knocked Ebony out. She hit her head. And so once she hit her head and she went into hospital, I think she stayed in a couple of days before she passed. So she died from that leg from falling off.
She was standing in front of me with a white dress on. She laid in my arm and said, "Dad, it's all right." I accept the fact she's in a whole nother place, but she'll always be with me. She'll always be with me. And that was a lot of stress lifted above me with that.
All of that pain in his face was gone, and it was just clear. His eyes were brighter, and the whole countenance of his face was happier, and he was lighter.
I didn't believe this method was gonna work, though. To be honest with you, at first, I was like, man, this ain't finna work. Ain't nothing finna work forever. This is it. I didn't believe it was gonna work, but it worked. It's worked. It really did.
The final day, after our group sitting and instructions, we break noble silence. I am proud of our group. I am so proud to call them my Dhamma brothers.
Going back out into the population will be difficult, and obviously I can't speak to that. As you all know, what we've created here is a little monastery, and it's very protective. But when you go outside, as you all well know, it's very different. There's some men that really get it. You can just sense that these guys are really going to get it. Others will certainly benefit, and others will also play games with you right throughout the course. And we had that. We had a couple of young guys who didn't want to play along with the rules. But even they benefited.
I made it. I tell you, I know you would. You enjoy it?
I can stay with Once they graduate, they not only graduate with skills and techniques and values, but they also graduate with a sense of accomplishment.
We had a great group. Yeah, great group. Yeah.
For a lot of the inmates, that's something that they're feeling for the first time in their lives.
One of the things that we miss in here so much, that I miss personally, is bonding. Because in here, away from, say, the Vipassana setting, man, it's unusual for guys to go around hugging each other and whatnot, shaking hands and touching. We're human beings, you know, these are things that we miss.
And it's growing. We're growing.
Yeah, you know,
because with this next group, it's going to grow even bigger. The I love you going to be even
we
bigger.
Need, and we have it there, so that's something very big. That's something so important.
I had mixed emotions when I heard them speak at the graduation. Part of it was, is it real?
Friends, family, so wonderful to see you all here and to witness history and be a part of it. And just
part of it was, man, this is awesome.
The heartache and, you know, dealing with a maximum security and the type of time that the individual had on their mind. We exercised the body, we steal, we run, but no one taught us how to exercise the mind.
It was very moving. I just hope and pray that it really affected them in the way that they said.
And I think about 2,500 years ago and today, and whatever the universe, Dhamma, that it took to bring this about and all this movement. So I just feel really blessed, and I thank y'all for the opportunity.
You know, we have a term here that we use, fake it till you make it. That's a question I have here. You know, is this something they can fake to get something positive in their file to help them make parole? Or is this something that's truly life-changing? And, you know, it's impossible to gauge after a month, 2 months, or a year. You know, show me 5 years from now. Show me once you're out that you've really changed your life. At that point, I'll be able to say, yeah, this is awesome.
I would hope that the men can really rise above the prison culture and the sense of retaliation. It was interesting, you know, when some of the men come to you, they're clearly grappling with feelings of revenge and hatred.
Been sick for the last 4 days, throwing up blood, and they ain't getting no help.
I had to go tell these gang members that I was part of, hey man, this ain't me no more. You go ahead and go your way, and I'm gonna go my way. And hoping I don't catch no repercussions behind that. This how I know vipassana work. When they call me a chump, call me a negative word, breathe a little bit, and I was cool. Administration didn't teach me that. Vipassana taught me that.
I've seen a change in him lately as far as, you know, he don't hang out of pocket. If you're on to him about something, he's usually trying to handle his business. So I think I've seen a good change in him, and it might be dealing with this program, I guess.
Ooh, I received a call. He said, when you see me, you're gonna see a new Edward. So I'm just all excited, and I can't wait to see my son. He was all smile. I didn't see any tension marks, because I can tell when he's stressed, all this just rolls up. And he was just strutting. Gave me a big hug. And I looked, he said, I feel so good.
I don't ever look to get out of this prison. They may transfer me to another prison, but it's still another prison, and that's going to be my home. So I've only got one thing on my agenda. When I get to up there and I see my God when I die, whatever I've got in my bag when I get there, I want to be excited and happy about showing it to him. I don't want to be ashamed of it. And Vipassana is the only way I know to accomplish that.
After experiencing the first group coming through and noticing how faithful the guys are to come to meditation each morning, evidently something's working somewhere. They're more relaxed. They're easier to get along with, and they don't cause as many problems.
To begin with, the daily sittings were great for us. It gave us an outlet to commune with each other. It also encouraged one to continue the sittings on their own. You know, not everybody used to show up every single time, but there was the opening, there was the room for us to be able to sit. Then unfortunately one day, we told her we couldn't do them anymore.
After the graduation, people associated with traditional religious programs became threatened. The chaplain services could take the prerogative simply to call the commissioner directly and say, these guys are, practicing Buddhism and they're turning all my inmates into Buddhists, so therefore you need to shut this thing down. So then the commissioner turns around and calls the warden and says, shut it down, shut the program down. You can explain the program to your blue in the face, but it's not going to change their decision.
Dear Bruce, I understand that this letter may take some time to get to you. Please tell everyone hello for me. 4 block is now the worst cell block in Donaldson. Blessed indeed are we who live among those who hate, hating no one. Amidst those who hate, let us dwell without hatred.
Please let it be known that we are always delighted to hear from any of the Donaldson Dhamma warriors. Of course, we are all disappointed you have lost the right to hold your group sittings. I know how much this has meant to you all. I was encouraged and impressed that you did not express any negativity about this situation.
All the Dhamma brothers are hanging in there for sure. Grady, OB, and I just had a birthday on the 6th of September. I am still sitting morning and night as I have always done. I will make like a door and close now. Please take care and be careful. Be happy, be peaceful, be liberated.
Lately, I have not kept a regular schedule of sitting. We still meet every Wednesday under the auspices of another scheduled class in the group room, and that gives us the opportunity to share our bond with each other. I wonder what would happen if we were caught.
When I first got here, it was like they told me Ed's here. I was like, oh man, where is he at? So it was a kind of big shock to see. And when I did see, I was like, hey, man, are you still meditating? That was the first question.
Right.
You still meditating?
Exactly. But before you came back to this camp, I had been going through a lot. Not being around the people that know what vipassana means and know what I done been through.
It's like a boy.
Dealing with myself. For me to leave one Donaldson, where it's a lot of us, to go where it's none, that was a hard transformation for me.
Yeah.
Be able to have to fight with myself and fight within these bounds and allow myself to slip like that.
This too will change. So don't let that, break you down, because you can always get it back. You can always go back and get it back. So it's not to a point to where it's not retrievable. You can go back and get it.
In order to bring Vipassana back at this particular time, there was a change in the administration, there was also a change in the wardens, and a change in the chaplain services.
It's great to be back in Donaldson. Oh, yeah. It feels like we're coming home.
Feels like home.
We miss you all.
Yeah.
I can only go on what's happening now because I wasn't here then. And what's happening now, I haven't had any opposition. That doesn't mean I won't have any opposition, but I haven't had any. So when it does, we'll just deal with it accordingly. So.
As I walked down the corridor and I saw them lined up, a big smile just came over my face. It was like it was a real homecoming for me. Very emotional, very just very touching.
Jonathan and I have the dubious distinction of the only guys that ever want to come back into Donaldson. Well, you guys want to get out. We want to come back in.
It is way beyond what I could have ever imagined it to have been. Just the responses of the men and their deep sense of gratitude, and clearly their connection with the meditation technique and how much it's benefited them.
All right, you all right?
Knowing that the Vipassana program is secular in nature, I always maintained hope.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for all your letters. All right.
If you're really interested in treatment and you're really committed and you want to do treatment, then you just have to go ahead and do it. You need to go ahead and do treatment.
I just kind of do this. I let the guys do it.
Yeah. Clearly, in a correctional institution like this, there are a lot of different dynamics that go on. I think we just had to sit back patiently and hope that all of that would settle down to a point where we could come back in again. That's great. A little privacy in the toilet. Dr. Kavanagh seized the opportunity, and here we are today. So it's great.
I'm thankful for the practice. Yeah, and we keeping it up. We got a couple guys who keeping it up. That's what we hear. We get letters.
The case that I'm in here on, the murder that I committed, occurred on January 12th. Vipassana is a way of being able to look. You know, I look a lot at the victim's family. I look a lot at, what did they experience, this time of year, because, they got a loved one, that's not present on account of me. Pain's a fact. It's going to be. Hit me 25 years on it day for day. And the pain of that's with me daily. I can't get around it. I try to shake it. I try to do everything I know to do.
It's true that when you start to practice Vipassana, you can't hide anymore. And some people think, oh, just because I'm doing a 10-day course, that the negativity comes up and it passes away. But really, this is the long course of life. This is the lifelong effort.
Like, I got life without parole. And there's a strong possibility that I may not never get out of the penitentiary. But, and all the time I was in the penitentiary, I was seeking to escape. I was real violent. Like my life's in constant turmoil, right? I need this. Because at a certain length of time, frustration builds up. And this is like a break from everything. This is like freedom, like it's setting me free, So I appreciate y'all coming.
To me, it's probably the greatest thing I've ever done since I've been incarcerated. And I've been incarcerated a pretty good while.
Have you been able to keep up your practice?
Yeah, I do it like late at night when it's real quiet. That's one of the problems we have in here. There's so many people in here. It's hard to find the time or the place where you have relative quiet.
I practice on and off. It's been a real struggle. Me being in the blocks, then there's a lot goes on within the system. And sometimes I'm kind of caught up in the mix of it.
So I've been doing Finch a long time. There's just certain things that's in Wayne Finch that's not going to leave him. But he's a changed person, totally changed person. Because right about now, usually Wayne Finch would be locked up in segregation somewhere, doing time and say for something that some rule, regulation that he has violated.
Since I did the 10 days, it helped me a lot. it humbled me a lot, you know, and helped me to deal with situations better than I used to. And like I said, I'm thankful for it, and hopefully that one day we could get it in within the prison system, because I feel it'll be a help for a lot of individuals, you know, and then by the system being bound with a lot of younger guys, I feel they need something like this, you know, and I wish I could have got a hold to Vipassana in my early years, you know, than now, but now it's still a big help.
I've seen drastic changes. Rick handles things far more better. I can kind of say we were kind of like on the same page. I act just as manic sometimes as he does, but he's way ahead of me, and I've got to catch up when it comes to handling certain situations. Grady, nowhere near as angry as he used to be.
The guy asked me, he said, you getting a visit today? Well, today's not visiting day. I said, yeah, I'm getting a visit today. I hadn't had a visit in 3 years. Y'all coming back is a visit to me. You know, I'm glad, I'm happy. And don't work me too hard.
You got to work yourself out.
They had a newscast on, and the guy sitting around the TV said, one day we were listening to it, and they said, Grady, that's your daughter they're talking about. And one of the guys that was getting the Mobile paper, there was an article in there, and sure enough, it was my daughter. And she had been murdered, and that's how I found out. I read it in the paper. My first reaction was, boy, if I could just get my hands on this cat. But that only lasted a few minutes. And it's like, what are you talking about, Grady? I can't feel that way. I don't like anything that he did. It makes me physically ill to think about what my daughter went through. But I gotta still love the guy. He's still a human, just like the rest of us. I don't like what he did. I hope he can't ever do that to nobody else ever again. But he's a human being. And if I believe anything about what I've said that I believe in, then I love him too. It's a choice. Vipassana gave me the right to make my own choice. I can choose how I want to react to this. I don't have to just react. I can't even tell you how much that surprises me that Grady Bankhead can sit here and tell you he actually did that. Because that doesn't sound anything like the Grady Bankhead I have known for 50 years.
When you actually work with human beings, you realize that every person is more than the worst thing they've ever done. I mean, I think if you take, someone who tells a lie, they're not just a liar. If you take something that doesn't belong to you, you're not just a thief. Even if you kill someone, you're not just a killer. These are folks who have just been ignored and are desperate, hungry for someone to help them find a better way to cope.
Now, I think it's just important that you know this, that while I understand that life in this place is sometimes hell, this is a very difficult place to live, but there are people on the outside who have tremendous compassion and love and support for you guys doing the work that you do.
You know how I look at this program? I look at this program as an individual going to lock up, but in a good way. In an environment like this, these 18 guys we got out here now, see, they getting away from that hostile environment for a while. They can think about other things, stress-free. Don't even worry about getting in trouble or nothing like that can get them in trouble.
Donaldson is a crazy place. The past 2 weeks are evidence of that. Somebody got killed on the 1st of the year, and In the preceding week before that, there'd been so many stabbings. Thankfully, none of them were fatal. We feel as though, in so many ways, we were let down because we were not allowed to practice freely. We're hopeful that this course here is a good sign, but we still don't know. I think this institution will gain a lot from the course. If there were, say, 100 more people walking around who have the mindsets of my Dhamma brothers out there, it would make a heck of a difference.
See, I not too long ago just come out of a week-long sitting with myself. It felt different. Don't get me wrong, it felt good to practice vipassana. It's the not being able to share the experience with someone who would understand. So I'm speaking of that. These people don't know, and I be trying to enlighten them. But as soon as I mention Buddha and Pali, you scratch that out. Why you scratch that out? They get spooked, as if I am trying to change their minds or belief toward their religions. However, some, or rather a great deal of these people, have noticed the tremendous change I have made in my life. What they didn't know was about the technique in which helped me to find my way. It's a struggle, I must say, but it's a struggle that is worth every bit of energy I have in my soul.
Dear Jenny, during a small group sitting today, something very heavy and cold landed on my arm. I opened my eyes in surprise and got even more surprised to discover that the culprit was a regular-looking fly. It continued to crawl across my bald head, face, and arms throughout the sitting, and I was totally amazed at how heavy it seemed to be. To myself, I named the different body sensations I was experiencing: heat sensations, sound sensations, fly sensations, which were very new to me, and several more. Immediately after the sitting, everyone started complaining at the same time about the fly. As it turns out, one fly had terrorized 8 hardened prisoners for a whole hour. Even though we didn't kill it, we spoke of several things that could be done to it. We then started wondering about how a fly lands on the ceiling. Have you ever looked up on the ceiling and seen a fly perched upside down? How did it land there? Did it fly upside down in order to get there? We discussed fly issues for over 10 minutes. Afterwards, we began to question our states of mind for wondering so much and taking the fly so seriously. We still couldn't figure out how flies land on ceilings. Your friend.